Welcome to the Better Breathers Club of BC. This is our 1 hour session where we get together with healthcare professionals to learn about our breathing and share our experiences to support each other. And the Better Breathers Club of BC is provided by the BC Lung Foundation. So they support this program, which we deliver through Poplar Pulmonary Wellness. And the land that I am coming to you from today is the land of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And if you'd like to pop the ancestral territories on which you live, work, and play, please go ahead and pop that into the chat. And we do like to create a safe space for these sessions where everyone is free to share their thoughts, values, and opinions and ask their questions without fear of judgment. So thank you all for creating this safe space for everyone. And a reminder that the information here is for educational purposes only, and it doesn't substitute medical professional advice from your healthcare provider. And if you are looking for more than just these sessions, you can connect to a certified respiratory educator and respiratory therapists in the Poplar Clinic. Please do reach out, book your free 15-minute welcome session. We can help guide you to other supports available to you. The number is there, 236-361-3480, or send us an email. And we wanted to announce another program sponsored by the BC Lung Foundation that we have just started up this month. We've just had one session so far, so you're not missing too much. We're just getting it going. It's a twice-a-month program where we play pickleball in person. So if you are in the Lower Mainland in the Burnaby or able to get to the Burnaby area, that's where this in-person program takes place. So do reach out to us if you'd like to join or if you have some questions about that. It's gentle, very well supported pickleball. Please let me know if you need help with muting or unmuting or changing your view. Just give us a wave and we'll help you walk through it. And without further ado, let's get cozy. And I will introduce our speaker, Keira MacFarlane, who's going to speak to us about healthy weight management. Keira is a registered dietitian and she is a certified diabetes educator. She works in Kamloops, BC. She has her bachelor's of science in nutrition and food science, as well as an integrated dietetic internship through the University of Alberta. And her passions include helping people with nutrition manage their chronic lung conditions and other chronic diseases. And outside of work, she loves mountain biking, cross country, and downhill skiing, as well as hanging out with her miniature Australian Shepherd. So without further ado, here's Keira.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, and like Tina said, I'm coming from Kamloops, so that's where I'm located today. And then our topic is all about healthy weight management. So some basics of weight management. So to lose weight, we need what's called a calorie deficit. And really what this means is we are burning more calories than we're taking in. And then to gain weight, we need the opposite. So we need what we would call like a calorie surplus, which means that we're eating more calories than we're burning. And calories are kind of what make up all the food and most of the drinks we have. So they're in pretty much everything we eat and most of the things we drink, not everything we drink. And how we burn calories is through any movement or exercise that we're doing. And our body burns a lot of calories just keeping us alive and doing all the different functions that it does. So it sounds simple enough, right? But there's a lot of factors that impact our weight. And a lot of these factors are not necessarily within our control. So just to name a few, we have our family history and genetics. And I've read some studies that show that, somewhere between 40 and 70% of our weight is actually determined by genetics. So that doesn't give us a huge amount that we can change or work on. Our race or ethnicity makes a difference. Our age makes a difference. Biological sex makes a difference. It is like research has shown it's easier for men to lose weight compared to women. I think most of us can probably attest to that. Our eating, our physical activity habits, the environment that we live in, culture, medical conditions, medications, certain meds, make it harder for us to lose weight. Certain meds make it easier for us to lose weight. Stress, sleep. So these are just some of the factors out there influencing our weight. And what you might notice from this list is that not a lot of that do we have control over. So when it comes to looking at like nutrition and lung conditions, this can certainly influence your appetite, your energy levels. It can make it difficult to prepare and eat healthy meals. COPD and other lung conditions make your body work harder to breathe, which means you might require more nutrition because your body's burning more calories even at rest. And then medications like prednisone, or other steroids can make it difficult to lose weight. They can increase our blood sugars. And we know that food is extremely important to give us the energy for breathing, digestion, and to fuel our activities of daily living. And we also know that nutrition is important for keeping our immune system healthy, working well, and ideally making it easier to avoid infections and exacerbations. So there comes this idea called a best weight. And I'm going to read a quote here by Dr. Arya Sharma, who's one of the quite well-known obesity doctors in Canada. And so she came up with this quote where basically it says, a patient's best weight is therefore whatever weight they achieve while living the healthiest lifestyle they can truly enjoy. There comes a point when a person cannot eat less or exercise more and still like their life. So I like this quote a lot. And, it kind of speaks to a big thing that we see, like what we hear in the media if you're, trying to lose weight is just, well, eat less and move more. And it's like, there's only so much of that we can realistically do. And there's only so much of that we can do and still like our life and still enjoy it. So what I would consider a best weight is the weight that you obtain while engaging in healthy habits, but still liking your life. That would be a best weight. And that might not necessarily line up with what you see in a BMI category. So BMI, which I'm sure most of us have heard of, it means body mass index. And it's an equation where basically they just look at your height and your weight and they come up with a number. And then from these numbers, there's kind of some arbitrary cut points for, normal weight, underweight, overweight, obese. And this equation is good on a population level, like if you're trying to figure out the health of a big area. But when you're looking at people individually, it's not very good. It doesn't take into account many factors. So, our body composition, for one, muscle weighs more than fat. So if you're really muscular, you might have a higher BMI, but does that mean that you're overweight or you're unhealthy? No, it doesn't. And the other one that I like to bring up is that, the BMI calculation is the same for men and women when obviously we have very different body types. So yeah, the best weight that you obtain while, doing healthy things, but also enjoying your life is your best weight. And yeah, that might not line up with a BMI category, and that's okay. And then the other point here is you might reach a point where further weight loss is not possible without medications. So things like Ozempic, Mounjaro, or surgery potentially. So I have a few slides here, like if your goal is weight loss, here's what we want to do. So if you are trying to lose weight, and it's not necessarily a pointless endeavor, like, we still have some capacity to lose weight. It just might not be as easy as we'd like it to be. So if you're trying to lose weight, this is how you might want to try to structure your meals. So on the left-hand side of this slide, I have a picture of the updated Canada's food guide. And this came out in about 2017, and it's still the one we use today. And so this is also referred to as the healthy plate method. And the idea here, and this is especially kind of a lunch and a dinner meal, so keep that in mind. But the idea is that half of your plate would be vegetables, about a quarter of your plate would be some carbohydrates, ideally some whole grain carbs, so we get a bit more fiber in there. And then the other quarter of your plate to be protein. And so if you're able to eat in this way, it gives you a really good mixture of kind of all the things that you need. And the goal is that it's still going to help you feel full. You're not going to feel like you're not having enough to eat, but it's in kind of a healthy manner that is going to make sure you get enough protein, you get enough fiber, your vitamins, your minerals, the things you need. So that's kind of a structure that we want to try to follow. And it can apply to mixed meals as well. So say you're making like a stir fry or something, just try to follow those kind of proportions. Another thing that's helpful is actually trying not to skip meals. So when we skip meals, like say you're like, I don't necessarily need to eat breakfast, so you don't. But you might find if you do that, say you have lunch, you have dinner, now it's the evening and you're finding yourself really hungry because your body's actually trying to make up for that nutrition you didn't get earlier in the day. So when we skip meals, it tends to lead to us being quite hungry and potentially overeating later on. So a better strategy is actually to try to eat at like regular intervals. So maybe you just have like breakfast, lunch, dinner, if that's what works for you. I get really hungry, so I also will have some snacks in there, and there's nothing wrong with that. So a good healthy snack would be what we call a balanced snack, and that's a combination of some kind of source of protein with either a fruit or a vegetable or like a whole grain carb. So what that might look like is maybe you have some fruit and cottage cheese or some cheese and crackers or veggies and hummus, or there's tons of possibilities, but by having that combination in your snack, it's going to help fill you up, but it's also going to help keep you full. Like I don't know if you've ever just snacked on like some crackers, but it doesn't really tide you over. You're kind of hungry pretty soon after, so adding that protein in is actually a really helpful way to make sure you are full and you're satisfied. In terms of like beverages, what you're having to drink, ideally we want to try to make like water your drink of choice. Water is really the best way to hydrate ourselves. It's super important that we get enough. And for water, there's things you can do to help it taste better if you don't really like plain water. You can, add like some lemon or some flavoring to it. You can buy those like Crystal Light or those other flavors. You can have it like hot or cold. And then even like if you have trouble drinking enough water, looking at like what you're drinking it from makes a difference. I don't know why, but for myself, I'll drink more water if there's a straw involved. So if I have like a water bottle that I have to take the lid off and then drink from, I'll drink much less of it than if I just like have a straw. So like this is the cup I keep on my desk because I will drink it. So that can help too. And then when you are eating, trying to eat slowly and mindfully. So where you're actually paying attention to what you're having and you're trying to minimize distractions, you're trying to pay attention to, what does the food taste like? What's its texture like? How are you feeling eating it? And then really trying to kind of connect to your body's hunger and satiety signals. And eating slowly is a good one because it takes about 20 minutes for our fullness signals from our stomach to actually reach our brain. So if you eat really quickly, you're more likely to kind of override those. So yeah, taking your time is a really good one. And then the other piece is just trying to be active every day, whether that's walking, whatever kind of movement. It certainly doesn't have to be hours in the gym, but maybe pickleball, there's an option there. But yeah, being active is another really good thing to do. So conversely, if your goal is weight gain, a few things we might want to do differently. So with that plate, rather than say half of your plate being vegetables, maybe you try to make that portion a little bit smaller. So you still want to have vegetables. They're important. We like them. But perhaps maybe you fill more like a third of the plate or a quarter of your plate with vegetables, and you'd fill the rest with a bit more protein, a bit more of those grains and starches. Because our goal here is to get a bit more calories, a bit more protein in to help you gain some weight. Same strategy. We want to try to eat regularly. So, really trying to have those like 3 meals a day. Certainly add in those snacks if you can. We do want to try to include a protein source every time we eat. So, that's with your meals as well as snacks. And I think a lot of people think of protein sources as like meat. It doesn't have to be that. There's lots of dairy products that are good sources of protein. So, like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, even things like nuts and seeds, those are options as well. So if you're going to have like a snack, you're having breakfast, try to include a protein in there too. Another option is considering adding in some calories in your drinks. So maybe instead of having water to drink with your meals, you have a glass of milk. That's a really easy way to add a bit of calories and protein in. You can also try the oral nutrition supplements like a Boost or an Ensure. That can have a lot of calories and protein in there. So, and it tends to be easier to drink calories than it is to eat them. So that's another strategy for sure. You can also choose the higher fat options. So the more fat that's in something, generally the more calories it has as well. And this is a place where we want to try to get more calories in. So, perhaps instead of like a skim milk, you go for a 2% or a homo milk. That's a great way to kind of get a bit more bang for your buck when you're eating or drinking things. And you still want to be active. Like we still want to include some movement in there because we want to try to maintain our strength and our mobility. So that's still an important piece. So in terms of hydration, just to touch on this a little bit more, obviously the connection with breathing and lung health here is that being well hydrated keeps our mucus thin. It can help clear the airways a little bit. The recommended fluid intake is individual, but on average, people tend to need about 6 to 8 cups of fluid per day. When you're looking at fluids, like any liquid does count. Water is really the best thing to hydrate us, but even something like coffee, tea, soup, those are all liquids and those all do count towards your fluid intake. It's actually a myth that coffee dehydrates you. Coffee has a very slight diuretic effect, so it makes you pee a little bit, but it doesn't like outweigh all the fluid you're taking in. So it can count towards your fluid. You don't want it to be the only thing, but it can count. And then when you're assessing your hydration, few things to look at would be like looking at your urine. So it should be a nice light kind of straw color. It doesn't have to be clear. That actually means you're like a bit overly hydrated, which is okay, but it doesn't need to be clear to be well hydrated. So just like a pale straw yellow is good. And then your mouth should also ideally feel a bit moist. And I understand if you're on oxygen or something, your mouth might not ever feel moist. But for those of us who are not, yeah, if your mouth is feeling a bit dry, that's a sign that it might be a good idea to have a bit of fluids. So, a few points to remember, kind of regardless of what your goal is here, but do try and eat foods that you like and you enjoy. And it's certainly possible to have a healthy diet and still enjoy the food you're eating. If you don't like something just because you've heard it's healthy, it doesn't mean you have to eat it. Something like kale is really good for you, but if you don't like it, please don't force yourself. There's other things you can eat to get that nutrition. We're aiming for progress and not perfection. And I know that change can really be difficult. Like we've all been eating all our lives. So changing that habit is not an easy thing to do. So what I would suggest if you are hoping to make some kind of change is just really start with like 1 or 2 things, get really good at those, and then build on to the next thing rather than trying to like overhaul things all at once. And then in terms of kind of fitting food in, we're just trying to choose that, good, healthy, nutritious food most of the time. So the way I look at it is, we're trying to pick about 80% of the time having some, good, healthy foods. 20% we have a bit of room for treats. And this comes from really a lot of research showing that what we do the majority of the time has the biggest impact on our health. So thinking of it that way, that 20%, that's the Christmas dinner, the Thanksgiving, there's someone's birthday and there's cake. Like, feel free to participate, even if you are trying to lose weight or whatever the goal might be. Food is a really important part of like how we celebrate things. And yeah, I don't want you to miss out just because, you're trying to lose weight. It's okay to fit it in as well. And then lastly, where does movement or physical activity fit in? So we know that movement helps us to burn more calories, and it also can help us get stronger, get fitter. Movement does not have to equal exercise. So even small things like reducing how much time you spend sitting can help you kind of reach some of these weight goals. So I have a standing desk at work and I try to stand for at least a few minutes every hour just so I'm not spending so much time sitting. So even little things like that make a difference. And then even if you're not trying to lose weight, we know movement's good for you. And then specifically one thing to look at would be resistance training. So that's, you probably hear about it in this program, but yeah, that's anything where you're kind of working on using your muscles. So it could be weights, it could be resistance bands, it could just be like body weight exercises like squats. But resistance training is really helpful. We really like muscle. Muscle is extremely important, especially as we get older. You know, it helps keeps us strong, mobile, functional. It reduces our chance of falls, and having more muscle actually helps your body burn a bit more calories even at rest. So adding in some resistance training, if you're not already doing it, is also a great idea. So that is all I have for today. Any questions?
Thank you, Keira. That was amazing. I'm gonna show a couple more slides and then we'll stop the recording and move to questions if that's okay. Hold on to your questions. Hold on to them for just a second. So we wanted to say, first of all, Keira, thank you for that amazing presentation and loads of information. I'm sure we all do have burning questions. So if you're watching this on a video, you can post your questions down below in the comments on YouTube or in the Poplar community. And we hope you've enjoyed the Better Breathers Club. If you're watching this after the fact, we have our next one coming up next month on a Wednesday, April 8th at 2 o'clock Pacific with Kate, who happens to be in the Zoom room here. Yay, Kate. And Kate is going to be talking about United Airways. So it's upper and lower airways, exploring those. So please join us next month. And if you're looking to get on our mailing list,
Sorry, Tina, just one quick thing. It's actually going to be on NTM bronchiectasis.
okay,
NTM bronchiectasis, our
focus on
next Better Breathers Club. Yeah.
okay, perfect. NTM focus, awesome. So if you wanted to get on our mailing list, we do different topics and different guest speakers every month. So we will post this link in the chat and we'll post it on the YouTube channel as well. And you'll see this subscribe page. And so you'll get an email every month with the Zoom link as well as the topic and the speaker. So thank you so much for joining us. We would like to continue the conversation with you. So please do join the Poplar community. If you're looking for more, we'll pop the link for that as well. You'll find a supportive community with access to respiratory therapists and certified respiratory educators, as well as all the past recordings for the Better Breathers Club of BC. So thank you everybody for joining.